We're talking about MSMEs in Nigeria, but I'm joined virtually this morning from the capital of Kwara State, Ilorin, by Dr. Ajisefinni Ayodeji. He's an agribusiness and NMSE expert. NMSE is Nano, Micro, Medium and Small Enterprises expert. Good morning, Doctor. Thank you for joining us on the program this morning.
Good morning, and thank God it's Friday.
Yes, indeed. Thank God it's Friday. Now, before we go to our conversation, let's take a look at that first story about the reps talking about pushing for a limit of 20% increment on rents, rentages for tenants. What's your take on that?
Truth be told, the landlords are investors, and their investment is the housing scheme they build and rent out. But is it on a yearly basis they add value to their property? The answer is no. Immediately government bring development to an area, the next thing some landlords do is to increase their house rent astronomically, saying that there is no development, therefore the value of their property has increased. Meanwhile, they are not the developer or the main persons that brought the development. With what the House of Rep is trying to do to limit the increase to 20% is a good thing, but it has a serious impact on the tenants because their income is not increasing by 20% annually, especially those that are in salary, those salary earners. Maybe their company increased their salary by 5% every 2 years, but their expenditure, especially those on their housing, will continue to increase. Such a person will find it difficult to have a balanced economy. Irrespective of that, we appreciate the effort of the legislator limiting the increase to 20%. We will even appeal if they can make it lesser because the burden will be too much. 20% of 1 million is how much? 200,000, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody that has been paying 1 million naira per annum for only one bedroom. In another, if a road comes towards his house in Abuja, the house will now become 1.5 or 1.2, and the salary has not increased. Such a person will find it difficult to meet up with his other responsibility because shelter is very important. He wants to cater for it. We are appealing. If they can make it lesser, it will be a great thing on the impact of the tenants. Thank you.
Okay. Now, yes, good idea, good move by the reps. Wonderful. But I'm looking at the part of enforcement and compliance. If this goes through, gets passed, goes through all the readings and all the committees and all that, and gets, passed into law, how are we looking that this is really actually enforced? And, seeing to that, rents is actually not more than 20% cap if you're going to actually increase it.
Well, it's a good point you have raised. Enforcement is another thing. Majority of the landlords will say that I did not take money from government to build my house. If you are not comfortable, get out. Somebody else will come in. But we pray the landlord will have the fear of God. The landlord will consider the tenants with human face. But the enforcement is where the major problem will be. Because litigation upon litigation, when it comes to litigation, that means that tenants will be taking landlord to the court. The government says you should not increase more than 20%. And the answer is, do I borrow money from government to build my house, or do government sponsor it? If you are not, please park out. Another person will park in. And that is the truth. We pray the enforcement will have a human face by the landlords. It's a major problem. Good policy, implementation and enforcement is where the problem will be.
Okay. Last question on this topic, and then we delve into our topic for the day. And that is, do you think that the government, should come into housing fully in a way, providing low-cost housing? I know that our second story in that, our top story this morning was talking about the housing plan, the renewed hope housing estate and how they want to make the price affordable and all that. But beyond that, maybe is there a possibility where the government in itself could do a rentage plan, affordable rentage plan, so that low-cost housing, so that people, would not be stranded as much and be forced to pay arbitrarily high and astronomical prices for shelter?
The truth of it is that our population is increasing day by day. Government alone cannot provide shelter. Don't let us deceive ourselves about that. And the one I can hear from the news today that the highest from the Renew Hope housing is 12 million naira for 3-bedroom. Where will a nano business owner have that capacity to buy? Where will a nano business owner have the capacity to buy a 1-bedroom for 5 million? Therefore, they will go into their own sizes to go and rent what their category belongs to. There is no amount of housing scheme that can cater for shelter in Nigeria. Our population is just too high. In a country of over 12 million population, how do you expect? How many housing schemes do you think? Even the state government, a situation whereby we are competing for farmland and housing. If they convert all the land in Nigeria to housing scheme, another crisis of food insecurity will be increased. That has to be considered.
Okay.
Therefore, we still need to appeal to the landlord to have human face in dealing with tenants.
Okay. All right, let's get to our conversation for today. MSMEs in Nigeria. Financing gaps, high cost and tax burdens. A brief intro. Micro, small and medium enterprises, and I'd like to add nano enterprises, remain the backbone of Nigeria's economy, accounting for over 96% of businesses, 84% of employment, and contributing about 48% to the GDP, according to the Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency of Nigeria, SMEDEN. Yet, despite their importance, MSMEs continue to face financial constraints that limit growth and competitiveness. 1. Finance gaps. Access to finance remains one of the greatest challenges. Most SMEs struggle to obtain credit due to stringent collateral requirements, high interest rates, and limited access to formal financial institutions. The World Bank estimates Nigeria's MSMEs financing gap at over $158 billion. Government interventions like the CBS National Microfinance Bank loans, SMEDEN grants, and Bank of Industry funding have actually in your own way helped, but coverage remains insufficient and bureaucratic delays persist. Now, high operating costs, we know all that, taxation burden and regulation. Some of us are still trying to understand, or most people rather, are trying to understand what the new tax law and what it means and it will entail come January 1st, 2026. So there's that, digital transition and informality. Only a fraction of MSMEs are digitized or have access to e-commerce platforms. Informality estimated at over 65% of MSMEs. What is the way forward? That's why we're going to have the experts to tell us about that. Now, let's talk about, what could be done and how these situations could be solved for the MSMEs. You're the expert. You're the one that is on the ground having this conversation. You're probably even running your own business. What can we do to close this financial gaps? You've heard what I said, I read out earlier about loans and funding. And we'll talk about at times, yes, the rates have been cut by the central bank, but even that seems a bit still too steep and high for SMEs. What can be done to first close the finance gaps? Then we can get into the high cost and tax burdens.
Thank you very much. Thank you. This is my ecosystem that I know where the shoe pains. You said we have different categories under MSMEs. We have the nano. And who are the nano categories? These are the people that have less than 100,000 as their working capital, who only have themselves or one other person that works with them. And who are the people in this category? These are the petty traders. Number two, the micro. These are people with working capacity of 1 million naira as their working capital, with not more than 4 or 5 staffs working with them. Who are the small? These are people with 5 million naira working capital and above, with about 5 to 10 staff working with them. While the mediums and the large are the big ones. Our concentration this morning, I want it to be on the ones that is giving Nigeria the highest turnover. And who are these people? These are the nano, micro, and small. When we are talking about funding, it involves so many things. One, capacity building. Majority of the people in these categories do not have financial skill when it comes to management of funds. They are traditional, conventional business owners that we say, leave me for who I am. I'm managing myself. I cannot access government loan. Therefore, let me be who I am. But let's appreciate Smedan and all the BMOs working and seriously to encourage, to sensitize the mindset of all their members. Smedan is working, Nasmi is working, Nasima is working, Nasi is working, and so on and so forth. All these organizations have their own members, but they need to work more on financial literacy. Now, let's move to the financial world. Every business owners have their own financial institution they need to relate with. You are a nano business owner who is working with less than 100,000. We are very sure no financial institution, no commercial financial institution will be ready to listen to you, because such a person don't have what they need. And what is the way forward for such a person is microfinance bank. And the so-called microfinance bank, how many of them are MSME friendly? They are there to make profits, yes. But they need to consider the nature of MSME businesses. And that is why, from my own school of thought, I always tell the financial institutions operators that you believe in KYC, that is, know your customer. But in the modern days MSME, you need to include it or improve on it and call it know your customers' businesses. That will determine the structure you will give to them. And when I say the structure, the interest rate, the basic expectation of the beneficiaries.
Okay.
The funding gap is there. The money is there at the bank, but the business owners don't have what it takes to access the loan, which is the major problem. Federal government has assisted us by providing or establishing a guarantee company for people that do not have the full collateral required by some banks. And who are these banks? Development banks and commercial banks. I have so many case studies. A situation whereby an MSME or a medium entrepreneur who does not have enough collateral.
Okay.
And the bank will say they need ABC to Z. If you cannot get this ABC to Z, you cannot access loan.
Okay.
How will such a person expand? It's a serious problem. And we need to have good working relationship between commercial bank and development bank.
Okay, doctor.
You go to some yes, ma'am.
Okay, doctor. So Let's go back a bit. You made a statement, and I'd like for you to expound on that. You said that the federal government has provided some sort of guaranteeing facility for loans for this micro, small, and medium enterprises. Could you explain what that means?
Okay. The guarantee company is a company that is going through incorporation now.
Okay.
To solve the problem of collateralization for the people in categories of medium and above, not for people below medium.
Okay.
You need a loan of 20 million. You don't have CFO. You don't have a property. This organization will request for some other lighter documents about your business that they will now issue you a guarantee to give to the bank that can borrow you money.
Okay.
But something is happening now, which the credibility of we, the small business owners, need to be tested. It's not every loan that needs collateral. There is a loan limit from a development bank that is below 10 million. You only need guarantors. But the sincerity of we, the operators of SMEs, the borrower, needs to be very, very certain.
Okay. 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 Let's go to the other.
If you have genuine, thank you.
Finish your thoughts, and then we can go to the other part of the conversation.
Okay. If for every business owners, with what is happening in Nigeria today, there is a window for funding, that if you can get a guarantor, you can access up to 5 million.
Okay.
Information is power. But what is hindering so many people is for them to get a guarantor is a problem. And there's no how you can give out loan without having a guarantor. It's not a grant. I will use this opportunity to appeal to our SMEs. We should look at business as business. Any entrepreneur that is not ready to take risks is not a businessman.
Okay.
And for those of us that don't have our business registered, that is why we need to patronize standard microfinance bank that can support our business. But the interest rate is another thing.
Okay, doctor. Okay.
How can somebody go to a micro? Yeah. Hello?
Let's get to the cost burdens of this conversation, the high cost. Now, we know what has happened.
Cost of operation.
Yes, the cost of operations. We know what has happened a few years ago. So how has that, in its way, impacted fundings? I mean, that's the subsidy removal and the FX volatility. How has it increased operating cost for MSMEs?
Well, it has increased indirectly, and I mean both directly and indirectly, cost of operation. Starting from cost of raw materials has increased due to increase in logistics. Cost of power has increased. The present band A, band B, band C issue has affected so many manufacturers to the extent that some of them have even closed down. Yes, we know that removal of subsidy will become a relief at the long run, but at the short run, it has seriously bring down so many small, micro, and nano, because they don't have what we call a capacity for economic of scale. And when we talk about economic of scale, they don't have enough funds for them to stock their warehouse with. They require raw materials for a month. They go to market every other day, every other week. And you know, cost of transportation, cost of logistics, cost of labor will be increasing, because if you don't give your staff enough salary, they may decide not to come to your factory. And you know what that means. It has a very serious impact on small and micro business owners. And that is why federal government introduced this 75 million intervention fund to SMEs in Nigeria at a single digit for a long-term repayment. But this such a money is not meant for nano and micro because they don't have the capacity. They don't have what it takes for them to access it. We are appealing to federal government to look into that. How can nano and micro benefit from special intervention to be managed with a government bank?
Okay. Now, away from government special interventions and what they can do to help, now let's come to the people that are most affected. These are the SMEs or the NSMs people. How can they by themselves come together as a cluster to reduce production costs? You know, what can be done if they come together? How can they reduce their own production costs and still maximize profit and still, of course, deliver good quality and service?
Well, thank you. That is what we call industrial clusterization. And this is the major responsibility of business management organizations at every level. They have different categories of members in different states at different local governments. What is expected of us as BMOs is to localize our membership, work with the local government for land lease, for the establishment of industrial park, where we can have common facilities. For instance, you are a food processor, you are into garri processing plant, where we can have industrial facilities for garri processing center, where we can have for maize, for every kind of sectors, so that the burden of power, the burden of security, the burden of lack of economic of scale will be reduced by coming together of people of like minds to buy these things as a group and share it for production, and have a group for energy source and other infrastructures. This will go a long way to help the industrial clusterization. Look at China, for example. Each state, each province in China has a cluster. If you want to buy wristwatch, they have a province for wristwatch. You want to buy battery cage, you have it. For your agricultural equipment, they have it. Let's see how we, the business people, the people in the bigger ones, that's the medium and well-to-do entrepreneurs, can go into providing infrastructure at a pocket-friendly leasing to the nanos and the micros, for them to lease, come together, operate together, and go to the market. You are very right by saying, how can we do it at a private level? We have people in Nigeria that can do such. It's another investment opportunity. Go to your state, approach your state government for acres of land that you want to have a private industrial hub, whereby tailor hub will be there, garment making, every other aspect of economy that will promote the small business owners. And what is the advantage of this? Banks will be ready to give loan to such clusters.
Okay.
More employment will be created to such clusters.
I have a question. I want to better understand when we talk about this clustering and industrial zones. Is it a case whereby this zone and these things are put in place, you come produce, then you take and go and sell at your different locations, or you produce and sell at that same location?
Thank you. It's a business model. Business model A. I have my money, I establish it. Bring your raw materials to my factory, I produce for you, and you go and sell. I charge you for processing fee. Business model B is I have lots of shops or factories, small portion, equipped, and rent it out to beneficiaries, either annually, monthly, depends on what I believe they can do. They will rent both the equipment and the facilities, produce, and they go and sell. Business model C is for me to just construct the shop, make good road for them, provide electricity, either solar electricity or federal government grid. But for such a business to survive, it's better to go on green energy, alternative energy, so that there will not be disruption of power supply to them, and let them come with their equipment. They can get funding for acquisition of this equipment from developmental bank. There is no how a businessman wants to go without loan. Let's face the reality. No more family that wants to give you, contribute to you to go and start your business. What you need is one, your skill, your managerial skill, your marketing skill, your technical skill. If you have all this and you have good integrity, I want to believe you'll find a way to see a supporter that will kickstart you.
Okay.
Look at this business model. These are the areas we can look into as a business owner to grow our business.
Okay. The last part of that topic, that's the tax burdens. And we know that, again, these people on the ground are the ones that tend to get a hit, really. You know, my guest on the program, I think a few days ago, or maybe last week, was talking about levies. That's what they pay most times. They pay levies, they pay this, they pay that. How has this really impacted the MSMEs, and what can be done to, you know, streamline it into one form of taxation where it's not so much on them?
Thank you very much. Before now, double taxation is what is killing MSMEs. Local government will collect, state government will collect, federal will collect. But with this tax reform, I want to believe it's becoming a central taxing system, whereby if you are a business owner that is making less than 100 million, I think there's nothing called income tax. I mean, company tax again. What such a person will be entitled to is personal income tax, which will be a relief. And for MSMEs, people that are earning less than 100,000 per month, if I'm not quoting out of content, I want to believe they said payee will never be, they will not be affected or by paying, they will not be paying pay as you earn again. This will be a relief to the nano category that are in that cluster. But we want this reform to seriously deal with the legal tax collectors in the local and rural area. Radio tax, luggage tax, all sorts of taxes that at the end of the day, if you add them together, they will put it on the cost of his production, and some will be out of market because of higher price. But with this tax reform, I want to believe it will bring a relief to nano, micro, and small business owners. We just need to do serious sensitization in different languages. NOA has a lot to do by educating people on the new tax reform, so that the effort of government will not be misinterpreted and people will take advantage in the rural area. Because if there is no rural, there won't be urban. What urban consumes comes from the rural. Therefore, we should concentrate more of this tax reform information to the rural, who are the people we call the nano, that contribute over 60% to the growth of Nigeria economy.
Okay, doctor. Our time is fast running out, and one question I have for us before we end the program is, what can Nigeria do? What indicators can Nigeria do to prioritize and to track MSMEs' performance and policy impact going forward? What can we do to help this sector? Because from the numbers we read out earlier in the conversation, this sector has such a large impact on the Nigerian economy. So what can we do to track their performance and help them, sustain this growth?
Thank you. An organization without database is not operating well, therefore they can't get any appraising system. And since the inception of the new DG of SMED, he has started work seriously on data collection. My advice to all BMOs in Nigeria is for them to work more on data collection of their members in different sectors. And when we say data collection, it's not just their name. We need to know the stage they are. We need to know the categories of business they are doing. We need to know what is their present working capital. We need to know the impact they are making on their location and locality. And that is why PMOs has a lot to do in achieving this performance review. It is the sole responsibility of business management organizations to take it to grassroots level. To what level? They must have coordinators at what level? At local government level. By so doing, we'll be able to know which sector of the economy is bringing this, which sector is performing in accordance to the policy of the government. That is the only way I suggest and ways I believe it can be done and achieved.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Ajisefinni Ayodeji, for your insights this morning on the MSMEs in Nigeria. Finance gap, taxation burdens, and high cost of operation. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure.
We'll be talking with him this morning on the ways to help our MSMEs, the major people that actually help our economy and daily living in this country. And he mentioned some very, very quite important things about industrial zones and how they in turn could help businesses and all that. But that's so much we have for you on the program this morning. I've been your host, Chiamaka Nwapu. For more of our programs, documentaries, and news, do well to follow us on social media platforms and on our YouTube live stream. Same time, same place. Bye for now.